In Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer, you are part of an Apex team, the best of the best the Nexus has to offer. While not a regular group of soldiers, they are nonetheless talented individuals that take on the most dangerous and important missions in this new galaxy. In this series, we are going to take a look at the various class builds for the various characters in the game's multiplayer. So with that in mind, I'm Darcblade, and let's take a look at our next character in our series of Mass Effect Andromeda Multiplayer class guides, the Human Artificer. As always, remember that these guides are aimed at the harder difficulties in the game and are for level 20 rank 10 characters or above. That being said, there will be advice for lower ranked characters later on in the video. The Human Artificer was the second of elite human characters added to the game, alongside the Human Juggernaut, Human Commando and Human Guardian. She is a tech specialist and an engineer through and through. But while her damage output may be lacking, she provides supporting roles in the form of debuffs and healing allied shields. As such, I spec the Human Artificer as follows. First, I max out Cryo Beam, going up to rank 6, putting points into Cryo Trap over Snap Freeze. Now both of these are fairly good, however I tend to always favour Cryo Trap over Snap Freeze. Snap Freeze requires you to shatter a frozen target through non-combo damage to create a chain effect of cryo damage snap freezing any nearby defenseless enemies. However, on the harder difficulties in the game, rarely are there defenseless enemies. Defenseless enemies would be enemies with pure red health bars, and so I tend to prefer Cryo Trap. This allows you to spray Cryo Beam on the floor, creating traps that when an enemy moves into it will either be frozen or debuffed, so long as they don't have shields, i.e. blue health bars. The trap can also prime enemies for cryo combos once they are chilled or frozen. Next, with rank 5, I put points into Brittle Freeze over Radius. This is to create a stronger debuff on armoured opponents, i.e. enemies with yellow health bars. And then finally with rank 4, I put points into Damage over Recharge Speed. Now this is a personal choice, you won't really be dealing that much damage with Cryo Beam. However, at the same time it already has a quick enough cooldown, even without points in Recharge. Next, with Remnant VI, I only put 1 point into this just so I can use the Remnant VI. I felt that points in the other abilities over Remnant VI were more preferable for this character. However, if you wanted to drop points elsewhere, maybe in Cryo Beam, in favour of maxing out Remnant VI, I'd first put points into detonating missiles to allow the Human Artificer to have some form of detonator. At rank 5, I would put points into Close Combat module to allow the Remnant VI to tank for you, basically protecting you from enemy fire. And then at rank 4 I would put points into Expedient Repairs to give the Remnant VI some more survivability. Next, with Invasion, I maxed this out going up to rank 6, putting points into Virulence over Sabotage. Now both of these are good, it comes down to personal preference. Virulence allows Invasion to deal damage to enemies, while Sabotage will debuff enemies affected by your Invasion, reducing their damage output. At rank 5 I put points into Weaken over Epidemic. The spread and duration of Invasion is already fairly long. Weaken on the other hand reduces enemies' defences by a further 10%, making enemies affected by your invasion take that little bit of extra damage from you and your teammates. And then finally at rank 4 I put points into Outbreak over Recharge Speed. As long as enemies who are affected by Invasion are dying near their teammates, then you shouldn't really have to reapply Invasion to those targets manually. This is one of the benefits of Outbreak. Next, moving on to the passives. With Offensive Tech, I max this out, going up to rank 6, putting points into Elemental Tech over Weapon Mass Reduction. This means that enemies who are affected by one of my status effects will take more damage from heat, cold or electricity attacks. Next, with rank 5, I put points into Anti-Shield over Anti-Armor. And then finally with rank 4 I put points into Power Enhancement over Combo Detonation. Combos with the Human Artificer are not its main source of damage. Most of its damage will come through debuffing an enemy, its own powers or weaponry. Thus putting points into Power Enhancement was the more optimal choice. And then finally with Drone Defense, which is a unique passive only available to the Human Artificer. I maxed this out going up to rank 6, putting points into Drone Support over Electrocute. Now both of these are nice. Electrocute is handy for if enemies get on top of you, but I found Drone Support much more effective. This not only allows the floating drone next to you to heal you, but also your allies who are nearby. At rank 5 I put points into Defense Systems over Drone Attack. Again, this is to give myself and my Remnant VI a little bit more survivability. And then finally at rank 4 I put points into Drone Recharge over Regeneration. Regeneration would be good for your personal survivability, but Drone Recharge reduces your heal cooldown time from the drone, which benefits not only you, but your allies. As for weaponry, go with an efficient weapon, something that you can deal okay damage with when you're not casting Cryo Beam or Invasion. As for your gear slot, go with something to either increase your survivability, tech damage, or weapon damage. Now let's move on to the heart of the episode to talk about the moves and abilities available to the human Artificer. Their first move is Cryo Beam. The Artificer will spew from their Omnitor a continuous stream of supercooled particles that freezes targets. This is an ability that must be held down to be its most efficient. If you just simply tap it, it is doubtful it will freeze or even debuff a target. Targets who have no protection, i.e. they have red health bars, will be completely frozen in place after being hit with the Cryo Beam for a short period. This will render them unable to move or attack, pretty much crowd controlling them. Enemies with yellow health bars, i.e. armor, will have their armor reduced. They will be chilled, reducing the effectiveness of their overall armor. The downside is that Cryo Beam does not affect enemies with blue health bars. This is shields. However, enemies who are affected will be primed for a cryo combo, but this needs to be activated by your teammates or your Remnant VI if you've put points to detonator. Another good point for Cryo Beam with the way it's spec'd at the moment is you can fire it at the floor, creating cryo traps around the area. Enemies who walk into these areas and just stay there for a short period will either be frozen or chilled, meaning that you can set up the effects of Cryo Beam elsewhere while you focus on other tasks. It comes in really handy for when you're fighting in set locations. Putting Cryo Beam Cryo Trap in a choke point really does wonders in hampering an enemy's assault on your location. Anyway, next moving on to the Remnant VI. This is a turn on, turn off ability. Once you activate the Remnant VI, it will stay on until destroyed or you manually deactivate it. When you deploy it, a retrofitted Remnant Observer will float by your side, attacking nearby enemies. Should it be damaged, it will cloak itself and repair itself over time. It's a nice distraction tool and takes a little bit of the pressure off you personally. You can also tell the Remnant VI who you wish it to attack. If you tap the ability button, you can highlight enemies. This will tell your little Remnant Observer to attack that specific target. Whether it listens to you or not is another question, but at least it's nice to have the option. Like I already mentioned, if you did put more points into Remnant VI, you could have the Observer detonate your frozen targets who are being affected by Cryo Beam, thanks to detonating missiles. You can also have the Close Quarters module make the Remnant VI more effective at taking aggro away from you, ultimately adding to your survivability. But on the harder difficulties, it doesn't take much to bring the Remnant VI down. Anyway, moving on to the last ability, which is Invasion. Once you activate the ability from the Artificer's Omnitor, they will spray a swarm of invasive VI controlled machines that swarm and weaken an enemy's defences. Enemies affected by this wonderful debuff will take more damage from you and your team. On top of that, should they die while affected by invasion, the machines will then spread to their nearby allies. This can potentially affect an entire wave with just a single cast of invasion. On top of that, with points in virulence, it means that the invasion can deal a nice bit of damage once the enemy drops below the threshold to activate it. It really comes in handy at finishing off weaker opponents. Invasion on the whole is a really nice debuffing ability that makes the harder difficulties in the game feel a little bit more easy than they should be. Now, as for the passives, the main aspect of offensive tech is the elemental tech, which means that enemies affected by a status effect of yours means that they'll take more damage from heat, cold and electric sources. This means that your Remnant VI and Cryo Beam will do more damage, but should you take some consumable ammo type such as Cryo, Incendiary or Disruptor ammo, it means that your overall weapon damage will be higher as well. As for your drone defense, in some respects similar to the human Juggernaut and their Remnant armor, the drone defense is a unique passive that could be considered an ability to itself. Basically, when you start a match, the human Artificer will deploy a holographic Omni drone that floats nearby. If an enemy should get into close quarters range with you, then it will electrocute that nearby enemy, stunning them and dealing damage. On top of that, when you take damage and lose shields, the drone will actually heal you and any allies that are within 6 meters of you. This heal though is automated, so you cannot control when it actually activates. Nonetheless, having an ability that heals your shields is very useful, especially on the harder difficulties in the game. You could look at it being a passive version of shield boost, just not as strong. As for weaponry, like I already mentioned, you need to take something that has an adequate damage output, even without points in increasing weapon damage. The human Artificer's main source of damage will be from their weapons, but that being said, they have no way of actually boosting their weapon damage. Instead, the way they deal adequate damage is through debuffing an enemy first, so Cryo Beam and Invasion on a target and then follow it up with weapon fire. You should still be able to take them down relatively quickly. On top of that, like I already mentioned, take some sort of ammo consumable to help increase your damage output. Now, the human Artificer is a human. They have standard health and above average shields for a human. They also come with a standard dodge and hover mechanic with their jetpack. However, they utilise a REMNANT Cryo Gauntlet as their melee attack, which means they can freeze unprotected foes with their melee attack. Now, if you don't have a rank 10 human Artificer, I would first advise maxing out Invasion and then focusing on your passives. Invasion will allow you to take on most of the difficulties in the game, and then when it comes to the two passives, I would probably go for drone defense over offensive tech when it comes to choosing points first. However, balancing them as you level up probably would be wise. After you've done Invasion and two passives, then you have to ask yourself whether you want the Remnant VI or Cryo Beam, and work on whichever one you've chosen. Overall, the human Artificer is a really nice support class, not just in terms of being able to restore their allies' shields, but also thanks to their superb debuffing capabilities. Cryo Beam combined with Invasion will make most enemies take more damage from not only you but your teammates. It will also allow the Artificer to have an okay damage output. While it may not be as good as some of the classes out there, the fact that she's on your team and debuffing enemies means that everyone benefits. If you do have an Artificer on your team, remember to stay fairly close to them. Their defense drone can stun enemies who get too close to you and your allies, but on top of that it will heal everyone. And like I said, it's not quite as good as Shield Boost, it's nonetheless a welcome addition and will help in taking on the harder difficulties in the game. Anyway, I hope you found this guide helpful, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you another Mass Effect Andromeda Multiplayer class guide to the Human Artificer. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.